Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Holler Board Games. I'm Dave,
I'm Joanna.
and today we are reviewing Canopy Evergreen, designed by Tim Eisner and published by Weird City Games. Guys, you'll have to forgive Joanna a little bit for this video. She's been sick and she has laryngitis, so we're going to try to keep her talking to a minimum as best we possibly can.
And I'm going to try not to cough.
Yeah. But Canopy Evergreen is a game where you're essentially building a forest by literally building up these little trees and collecting different plants and animals. We'll get to a rules overview, explain a little bit how the game plays to you guys. Then we will come back and tell you what we like, what we didn't like, and give it a score. So let's go ahead and get you to that rules overview. All right, let's talk briefly about how to play Canopy Evergreen. So essentially on your turn in Canopy Evergreen, the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to be able to buy one of these animals and add them to your forest. Now you can only buy them if you have enough food to buy them, and various different things throughout the game will give you food. But there are three different kinds of these animals. So there's one kind that will give you a special ability that you can use on your turn. Each animal will have a token. You can use that token and flip it over to its gray side. And so once per season, of which there are 3 seasons in the game, you can use the special ability once you have this. Some of the other animals are going to give you a score at the end of the game. They're just going to give you the straight number of points that they're worth on their card. And then some of them are going to be foraging animals, and they're going to give you points at the end of each round or season. So essentially, this spotted owl would give you 1 point for every 2 treetops that you would have. So after you've decided whether or not you want to buy any animals and spend your food, you're going to start drafting cards to your hand. And the way you're going to do that is you are going to take the pile of cards to your left, you're going to look at it, you're going to decide if you want that card, and if you do not want that card, you're going to put it down, and you're going to add a card from the deck to it. Then you're going to look at the pile that's in the middle of the table, and you're going to decide whether or not you want that one, and if you don't, you add one to it. Then you're going to look at the pile of cards on the right, and you're going to say, okay, I want to take that one, and you're going to take it and put it into your forest, and then you're going to replace it with a card. Now, if you choose not to take this one, you would still put a card on top of it, and then you have to take whatever the blank blind card drawn off the deck is. So that's essentially going to be how you draft every time for the game. Now let's talk a little bit about these cards and essentially what they do. So there are weather cards that involve sun and rain, such as these two. You get points for every pair of sun and rain that you have. So if I had these 2 cards, I would essentially get 3 points at the end of the round because I had 3 pairs of sun and rain, and whoever has the most pairs of that gets a bonus 5 points, and then the second person gets an additional 2 points. There are going to be cards like this that will let you either put a new route into your forest, or they will let you add a trunk onto a tree that you were already building so that you can build it taller. Now, other cards that you can have out of this are going to be canopy cards, for example. And so what a canopy card does is it will let you cap that tree that you just built off with a topper so that that tree is 3 segments long, and then there's a score on the bottom. So for example, I would get 2 points for each segment. This would be a 3-segment tree, so that would give me 6 points. Now there are also going to be these tokens on the board, and essentially what that is once you have completed 2 of your trees that go between these segments of the board that go on the tree spaces, once you have completed 2 of your trees, as long as one of them has at least 3 pieces, you will be able to take this piece in the middle, and this will count as a permanent boost to one of these cards. So essentially, if I had, the rain and the sun, as I showed before, this would give me 2 extra rain. So you're also going to have cards like this Salal, which are set collection that you get points for at the end of the game. You're going to have cards like the Trillium, which is another set collection. You're going to have cards such as this Chanterelle Mushroom, which gives you food, which is going to let you buy these animals. You're going to have a ton of different cards in here that are all going to do various different things, depending. And then some of these cards will not be good. Some of these cards will be bad. You can have things like heat waves, and you can have, let me see if I can find a wildfire card in here. You will have things such as heat waves and wildfire that will cause you to have to discard cards from your forest. So it essentially costs you points. And so if you have enough of these, it can spread and it can cause everyone that you're playing with to have to discard cards. And basically what you're going to do is you're going to figure up all of the points that you get per round, and then there's going to be some end of round scoring. And you're going to do that over the course of 3 rounds. And then at the end of the 3rd round, whoever has the most points is going to win the game. And that is essentially how to play Canopy Evergreen. All right, guys, welcome back from the rules overview. Now we're going to talk a little bit about what we like, what we didn't like, what we think some other people might not like, and we're going to give it a score. So what did you like about this one?
One of my favorite things about this game is the player board. We've played a lot of games recently that you're building a forest in. We'll be doing probably a nature
we've had a ton
games
of nature
video
games recently
soon. And this one, I really like the look of the trees. I like the way the taller your tree is, the more points that you get for it. We played this with our son last night, who's 10, and he really liked trying to make the tallest tree every game. He really enjoyed that. So I really like the player board.
He came up. This was as tall as he could get one, but he tried his best.
He did. He wasn't having a great deal of luck. I really like the flavor text on this one. I always like flavor text on nature games. I feel like this one did a really standout job. I love the way that if there's three of each animal, but each of them have different flavor texts. And I really learned things that I did not know about some of these animals. So I really enjoyed the flavor text. I will say the flavor text was a little bit small, was not as noticeable on these. I found myself forgetting to read it, but I did really enjoy reading it. The next thing that I'll say that I liked was the logic, particularly the logic in the wildlife and the animals. The way that the different chains build makes sense because you're going to have, if you have water, you're more likely to have fish. If you have fish and you have water, you're more likely to have black bears. And I really enjoyed that. I also really liked the logic of the animals' abilities. So one of the animals that I had yesterday was a bumblebee. And the bumblebee, you get points. I don't know if you can see that, but you get points based on if you have the more flowers you have. So if you have a trillium and a salal and huckleberries, then you get a point for having each set of one of those. You get an extra point. The more flowers you have, the more points you have for your bumblebees. And I just like the logic and things like that. The other thing that Ben pointed out, actually, our son, was he really liked the way the pine cone cards and the wildfire cards balance each other a little bit. And I really like the idea that the wildfire cards make your pine cone cards for the seed deck more beneficial because some seeds have to have fire to get ready to germinate. So I really, my science nerd and me really enjoyed that. So what about you? What were your likes?
I really like the art. I like, I get it's kind of weird to say, but just like the general vibe of the game, like everything meshes together so well with the art. Even when it comes to like topping these trees with the topper where you get the birds on the top of it when you win that tallest tree award. Yeah. And everything just meshes so well together. When it's laid out, it looks like one cohesive unit. And I really like the way that everything just
the way it looks and feels on the table.
Yeah, I really like all of that.
Yeah, I will say that you mentioned the birds on top of the tree, and Ben had the eagle card last night where he would get more points for having more tall trees. Right, yeah. So that felt really good too. He was really excited that he got to put an eagle on top of his tall tree and have the eagle card. So it was a good vibe for him.
Yeah. I like the way the card drafting works in between people. So I like that I feel like I'm sharing a pile with some people and some people I'm not sharing a pile with. And like the card that was, you guys were over there the other night, and the deck that was between you guys, I never have access to that deck. Yeah. And so I like the way that I'm sharing some things and that I'm not sharing some things. And I like the way all of that comes together. It says this one plays in about 45 to 60 minutes, something like that. And I think that's accurate.
Like, I think it is too. I think maybe an hour, maybe a little bit longer than an hour if you're playing with somebody that's never played before.
Yeah. I really like the general, just it feels really quick.
It does. And it's very fast paced. Like I would very much sometimes not have time to figure out what I was going
Yeah.
to do next in between turns. But
Yeah, and it's simple. It's not. Yeah, there were times last night when our son was like, "Oh, it's my turn already."
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
he was like, because it just moves so fast,
Yeah.
and I like that. I really like it's the simplicity of it. I explained it to him in next to no time, and he was up and running with it.
Yeah.
It's not a very difficult game to grasp at all. It says the age on it is 10 plus, and I think that's accurate. Like it's
Absolutely.
very much, fits in that age because he's 10, and that works out perfect.
Yeah, and it's good. He's not played a lot of complicated board games with us, and he is kind of a beginner, I guess, and so it's fairly beginner friendly too. I would say.
And I love building the trees. That's another thing, is watching the trees actually get taller as you build them. I do have some concerns about that, but we'll get to that later on. But I do like building the trees. So yeah, I mean, just the overall kind of vibe of it and the way everything meshes together is probably my biggest like from it. What about dislikes? Anything you don't like?
I do have a couple of dislikes for this one. Me and Ben had one of the same dislikes, and that's that we forget to put the cards. So it's a card drafting game. So you pick up cards from one pile, you look at them, you decide if you're going to keep it or not. If you don't, you put it back down, you add a card to that pile, and I, worse than him, consistently forget to put those cards on that pile. So I don't know that I can even say that's a criticism. So it's me. I just struggle with that. So
it's just a mechanic that
it's just a mechanic that is hard for me. So we had one game particularly where we had a pretty big gap in mine and your scores.
Yeah, that's on my list too.
And I still don't know what I could have done differently in that game. So that felt like it was maybe a lot of randomness. Yeah, but I don't know. I don't know.
It can be very swingy.
It can be very
swingy. The scoring
swingy.
can be very swingy, and it's not always immediately clear why the scoring is very swingy. Like it's one of those things where like we got done, and I want to say the score was like 120 some to 82. Or something like that.
Yeah,
so there's a big gap. You're
Yeah.
talking like almost a third of the scoring. Like,
And I knew going into that final round, like there's no way I can win this.
Right.
Like
that
I cannot.
And we've had that a couple of times.
Yeah.
Like one time
you had kind of a big gap.
Yeah, one time
night.
you beat me and we had kind of a big gap, and so like the scoring can be very swingy. That was on my list of dislikes too.
The other thing kind of related to that is I hate the fox. I kind of feel like maybe I hate the fox.
I don't know where he is
because he's really thematic and he's sly, and I'm supposed to hate him.
Yeah, he keeps you from looking at things.
He does. So his mechanic is that he keeps you from looking at a pile of cards.
Right.
Now I've never had the fox, and I love the fox. I had the fox, but it feels really bad to me to not be able to look at this pile that I'm watching grow.
Yeah.
I think you put like 13 cards. I'm exaggerating in a pile with the fox on it the other day.
It was a lot.
And I kept wanting to take it, but I didn't. It could have had all the wildfire in it.
Yeah.
So that was frustrating. Didn't feel good to me. And that was the game that had the big gap in. So I don't know. Maybe I'm being mean about the fox, but I didn't like him.
I like the fox. I like the way it's thematic.
Yeah. And then I don't particularly care for the alternative tokens. So there's a second way that you probably mentioned in the rules overview. There's a second way to play this game that just changes out 2 of the base tokens for alternative tokens that give you other abilities. These are okay. The game or 2 that we played in them, I just didn't care for the way they changed things up. It's random which token you replace with it. So I feel like you could replace a really powerful token with it and it wouldn't be as good as that.
And not use it to its, not be able to use
it. Yeah, not be able to use it to its full advantage.
Yeah.
So,
and there's that seasons deck too that changes, and I'm just kind of on that too.
Yeah, I didn't feel like that.
Essentially, what you're mentioning is there's a simple version of the game that has just the basic tokens on the board and none of the season cards, and then there's a more advanced version that uses the tokens and the season cards, and we just tend to prefer the simpler version.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, and I think that's fine. I tend to prefer the simpler version on a lot of games.
Yeah.
I feel like this one is so quick and snappy, and those tokens and the season cards and giving that extra layer of thought to it kind of slows it down a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't need it to slow down.
Yeah, I don't either. I like it for what it is.
It's okay with it. It's not bad.
It's not bad.
Wrong. I would happily play it either way.
Yeah.
It's just not my favorite way to play it.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. All right. What about you?
I think you covered most of mine. The other one that I have is related to the components, and it's mostly these trees. The way they slot together, if you play this one a lot, I'm afraid these trees are going to start peeling.
Yeah.
Where anytime you slot, I mean, anybody that's had any kind of board games knows that when you slot these cardboard in, like it eventually starts peeling and it kind of frays the edges of the cardboard. So I worry if you play this one a lot that you're going to have components issues.
Yeah.
And so there's a large primary part of this game is set collection. And it's played over the course of 3 rounds. So whenever you have set collection and you go to putting these cards back into the deck, you're going to need to shuffle that deck really, really, really well a lot of times. Yeah. And the cards are not super great quality. And we sleeved ours, which I would advise anybody that gets this to do. But I worry that if you start shuffling those cards over and over and over and over and over again, you probably shuffle them before you start, and you shuffle them between each season. So you're looking at shuffling this deck probably 3-4 times. And where it's set collection, it can't just be like, shuffle, and you're good to go. No, it has to be.
You got to shuffle it good.
It has to be a good shuffle so that everything comes out even. Yeah. And so that is one of those things where I worry about the components, the longevity of the game as far as that goes. That's really my only concern.
I wonder if you could like spray some varnish or something on those to kind of shore that up.
Probably could, but like you shouldn't have to. Like if you buy something new out of the box, like it should be, and it may not. Like it may last great. They may have done something to these. They haven't. We haven't had any issues with them yet. I'll say that much.
I worry every time I stick them together. I'm like, oh, yeah.
And I was watching our 10-year-old just mauled him last night, and I was like, okay. And so I started helping him like get them lined up better. Yeah. But so that is a concern. I can't say it's an immediate concern. I can't say it's anything that's going to affect my score of the game in any way.
It's true. It could even be a pro.
It's just something it's just something that I noticed that I'm like, okay, well that may not be the best way to do this. Yeah. What about things that other people may not like? Oh,
I'm going to lean on you for that.
Okay. So for me, I think that other people may not like the simplicity of it.
Yeah.
There is in these, there's not a lot of variety in these cards. There's Salal, there's Huckleberry, there's Trillium, there's Cattail Moss. And it's the same thing over and over and over and over every single game. And I worry that some people might get bored with that really quick.
Yeah, I could see that.
This is not a game like Earth where there's constantly new cards and there's these giant stack of cards you can go through and you're building things a million different ways. Yeah. It's a game that's very scaled down, which is good. I like that for what it is. But I can see somebody that would pick this up that might play it 4 or 5 times and be like, well, I'm seeing the same stuff over and over and over again. So I think the simplicity of it might turn a lot of people off, but just be aware of that if you pick this up, that it is a very simple game. And I also think that other people might not like the drafting. I think they might not like that. Well, I draw from left and then middle and then right, and I never see these cards because I can see somebody. Last night, I desperately needed to get trunks for my trees so that I could build them up. And in my piles that I kept looking like I just had none, but I was like, I bet they've got, I bet they've got the trunks for the trees that I need in that pile, or they're in that seed deck or something. So I can see that drafting, especially if one of you guys would have taken the pile that was between you and it would have had like 3 trunks in it. I'd have been like, I never had a chance. I never even had a chance to get that. So I think some people be frustrated by that. For me, it's not. It's whatever. Like,
I agree. I like it. The only thing I don't like about it is forgetting to put the cards in there, but that's on me.
So that's the other things I can see people not liking. So really not too much.
No, I agree.
So where are you coming at with this one for a score?
I gave this one a 7.5.
Okay.
So I really enjoy it. I think it's got good replayability. I would definitely recommend it for somebody, especially if they're looking for a nature game, and even if they're a beginner.
Yep, so man. Something short, quick.
Yeah, definitely. It's an easy weeknight game.
Right. Yeah, for sure. And it says, like I said earlier, 45 to 60 minutes, 1 to 4 people. The number of people don't really increase that length any.
No, not really.
Because we've played it at 2. I've never played it with 4. We played it at 2. We played it at 3. And I didn't feel like adding a third person, even a newer player, really added to the length of that.
No,
we were done pretty quick last night with it. I'm in the same exact place you are. I'm coming into 7.5 on this. Awesome. I like it a lot. I think it's really good for what it is. It's a super short, simple little nature game. The theme of it is really good. The theming of it is really strong. The vibe of it is really good. Yeah, I have no issues pulling this out, especially with people who are kind of newer to board games, and that because that nature theme is kind of something that goes over with a lot of people.
It does, yeah.
So yeah, I think this one definitely has a place in our collection. I don't see us getting rid of
For
it
sure. No,
anytime
it'll
soon.
definitely be here for the long haul.
Yeah, and so I'm a fan. I like Canopy Evergreen. I've never played the original Canopy. I don't know if I would like it or not. This was the first one that I picked up. So yeah, I'm a fan of Canopy Evergreen, 7.5 and 7.5.
Yep.
Guys, hope this helped you out, helped you make a decision on Canopy Evergreen. And we appreciate you watching. As always, thanks, and we'll see you next time.
See you next time.